This podcast is brought to you by Deepbridge Capital LLP. Deepbridge is authorised and regulated by the Financial Conduct Authority. Please note that investments discussed are both illiquid and high risk and won't be suitable for all investors and should be considered as part of a diversified portfolio. The content of this podcast should not be construed as financial or taxation advice. We recommend investors seek appropriate professional financial advice. Any views expressed may no longer be current and may have already been acted upon. Welcome to this latest Deepbridge Discovery Podcast. My name is Andrew Aldridge. The purpose of these podcasts is to bring to life the people behind the companies and the networks that Deepbridge operates in. To that end, I'm delighted today to be joined by Katie Nicholson, who is Director of the Liverpool City Region Angel Network, the LCR Angel Network. So Katie, great to see you. Thank you for joining us.
Thanks for having me, Andrew.
So with these podcasts, we always like to start kind of at the beginning, if you like, and looking kind of backwards. And so can you tell us a bit more about LCR, the Angel Network, the strategic objectives, and kind of how that fits into the Merseyside region, and a bit about yourself and your background?
Yeah, of course. I'll start with myself first, and then
please.
It kind of provides a logical step. So I'm half Greek. I grew up in Cyprus, which always provides a great chance to go back home and see your family there, with nice family holidays and that kind of thing, which is great. And then I've been living and working in the Northwest for 20 years now, between the Isle of Man and Liverpool.
Yep.
Originally started in marketing for a software organization, did an MBA through John Moores alongside that.
Cool.
And then went on to work for Paddy Power and e-gaming, digital acquisition, which was really exciting.
Really interesting, yeah.
Really fast paced, really challenging. It was 2016 World Cup.
Right.
Just literally about 3 months after I started, my manager at the time went on maternity, and I basically got left with this huge budget and huge targets to hit. But it was a really steep learning curve, but an incredible opportunity to be part of such a huge organisation, and also learn so much about sport and all that kind of stuff. So
such a vibrant organisation as well.
Yeah,
new ideas, fresh thinking.
They had to be so, I don't know if you see this from the outside, but they had to be so creative because their budgets weren't necessarily at that time on a par with the likes of William Hill.
Yep.
So they had to do a lot of their, you've probably seen a lot of the stunts they did, which got them a lot of press coverage, but for very little ad spend.
Yep.
But yeah, I was fortunate enough to be in the display acquisition team. So for anyone that doesn't know what that means, that's those adverts that when you go on John Lewis and you don't buy something and it follows you around.
Yep.
But going back to say 2015, obviously things were a lot different then, and like tech's come so far, but it was really great to be part of that and do, trials with Google and Facebook and that kind of thing. So I really enjoyed it. Yeah. And then I moved on to work for KPMG in the Isle of Man, running an Angel Network. So it was a new, I actually went for a role for a marketing job that was e-gaming focused, but the girl that was previously doing it wanted to come back. So they said, actually, we want to take her back. She knows the role, but we've got this new project in the pipeline, and we're setting up a new angel investor network. Would you be interested? So that's kind of how my work in angel investing began, really. So
entirely by accident, but I like that. That's good.
Yeah. Well, it's kind of how things happen for me, to be honest. So I started there, and I worked for KPMG for 4 years, running the Angel Network on the Isle of Man. So we set it up from the ground up. At the same time, there was a lot of very similar initiatives being set up as to what's happening in Liverpool. So the Isle of Man government created a £50 million enterprise investment fund. There was new crowdfunding regulations put in, alternative banking regime, that kind of thing. So it was really great. It was booming. Loads of great companies were coming over. So that's kind of how I got involved in angel investing. We were, the ambitions that we had for the network, we weren't quite able to fulfill due to a lot of licensing and regulation that was slightly different in the Isle of Man to what it is in the UK in terms of angel activity and syndicates and that kind of thing. So I decided that was kind of my time was up. And then the sponsors also decided like that was the right decision. So we closed, it was called Bridge Angel Network in 2019. And I decided to work for myself and kind of see what happened.
Good
so
timing.
I really enjoyed it. I had a couple of really great clients. I was very fortunate at the start, and then COVID, and that was September 2019. And then obviously COVID came along.
Yep.
And my 5 days a week consultancy just got wiped out overnight, basically. But I was fortunate in that one of the companies that I'd got funding for, in the last company I got funding for through the Angel Network, that funding had just landed and they wanted someone to come on board and help them in a consultancy role. So I did that. They were based between Liverpool and the Isle of Man. So that was a really great opportunity. And then I set up another company with two ex-colleagues called Founded, which was startup consultancy and advisory. And we ran a couple of pitch events as well, which kind of kept us, kept me in that
network and that world.
Space. Yeah. Yeah, and we did some work with some partners in the Northwest, which again, great. And then as part of my consultancy role, I got asked to kind of manage the LCR Angel Network on a very part-time basis until their funding came through they've now received £1 million of funding. So that was October 21, and it was, 3-4 months. It ended up being a couple of years and now doing that full time. So from November 22, the recruitment process started for that role, which was quite an intense process, but I was really happy that they did that because I felt that that was definitely the right thing to do. And I guess made it more, like for me, it was even more exciting when I did get offered the role, because I knew that actually that was the right thing and they believed in me being able to do that.
You're absolutely the right person. You've gone through due process, etc. Absolutely. Yeah. Brilliant.
Yeah. So it's a really exciting time. I started in May, so we're now probably 7-8 weeks in. Weeks are flying, actually. So the LCR Angel Network was established in 2018 by Brabners, MSIF and Grant Thornton, and then in the latter years run mainly by MSIF and Brabners, and they did a pitch event once a quarter, bringing together angel investors and high net worths from the Northwest to try and help accelerate investment and capital into startup businesses in the LCR region.
Yep.
But without any kind of formal, support or any kind of proper budget. So now they successfully have been awarded £1 million, 500k of which has come from the combined authority, and then MSIF have put in the other half. So that's great. So that's really put us into like a new chapter, a new growth phase. So we've now got that budget for 5 years to get the Angel Network up and running, to get it to where it needs to be operationally and professionalize it to kind of be the best it can be.
And having been involved kind of on a I guess a part-time basis for a little while previously, you must have already come in with kind of ideas about where you could see it going, kind of how you're going to do things going forward, and once you had more time, etc. So that must have been quite an exciting thing to almost have that. You'd already done the due diligence on the role, if you like, before you started. Yeah,
and I think a lot of the things that need doing are, obviously when I did it in the Isle of Man in 2016, it's 7 years ago, but it was a lot of that is similar process. But yeah, it gave me time to kind of get an understanding for the ecosystem, to meet all the other ecosystem partners and like see how we can best build our strategy to really be the best we can be, but also to help all the other ecosystem partners and work together with them as well.
So how geographically tied are you in terms of A, angels, and B, kind of company supporting? Is it just purely within, literally Merseyside, or is it, can you go slightly outside of that, or what does that look like?
So in terms of investors, they can come from anywhere. There's no, the more the merrier. Obviously, there's a lot of people, I think, Liverpool diaspora, as they're called, who may live overseas now, but, they still have that fond tie to the LCR region. In terms of the businesses that we'll be working with, I'd say the majority, probably 90%, will be coming from the LCR region. because obviously that's where our funding has come from, and that's where that's the area that we want to focus growth and support in. But we'll definitely be open to working with companies outside that border too, mainly because I think obviously if a good opportunity comes along and it's right for the investors, and then hope in an ideal world they'll get a return on that investment, and that capital will then get reinvested back into the region if they're based there. And
I guess you've got loads of things going on kind of on the periphery of the region, haven't you? You know, whether that be Cheshire or whether that be kind of Lancashire, etc. So I guess there's kind of always going to be that temptation to kind of look at things slightly outside.
Yeah, definitely. And I also think that obviously there isn't as much activity in some of those regions as there is further down south.
Yep.
So actually it's about kind of something I'm really keen to do is actually grow awareness about angel investing as a whole.
Yep.
And, you know, the value that people can add through angel investing.
Yep, absolutely. And have you got any kind of key goals or strategic objectives about what you want to achieve, or is that still kind of TBC? Is that still being worked on, or kind of what you're hoping to achieve?
Lots of things.
We've got all day, Katie. It's fine.
Yeah, but really kind of that broader education piece. So onboarding new angels or angels that have capacity to invest but maybe don't know it quite yet. And then also to kind of move towards in time something that is really angel led. So have some key lead angels on board and actually create something that the angels want to lead going forwards, and then we would kind of be almost like the facilitators kind of behind the scenes operationally, rather than us saying, you know, these are the companies.
Yeah, so you're more kind of a facilitator rather than actual the doer, if you like, in that sense. So in terms of Liverpool and the Liverpool City Region, Merseyside, however you want to describe kind of that part of the world, what was so appealing to you about kind of coming to work for the LCR Angel Network in that region?
I think the people, to be honest. Well, firstly, it's a great opportunity, and it's something that I tried to do for a long time, you know, in a previous life, shall we say. And actually I think it's so fortunate to have that dedicated funding from MSIF and the Combined Authority. I go to all these angel events and round tables with other angel networks, and, you know, there's a lot of conversation around the strategy and the, you know, charging fees and that kind of thing. And whilst that is something that we will definitely be considering, and it's part of my longer plan because we have to become sustainable, it's to know that dedicated funding has been put in place to enable us to build something is such an amazing opportunity. And just the people in Liverpool are so friendly. I find it's just great. Everyone's really helpful. Everyone's trying to wants to be involved. How can I support? Fingers crossed it stays that way.
Absolutely. And what's the ecosystem for those people who don't know the area or don't know the city? Kind of what's the ecosystem like in terms of funders, other collaborators, and kind of incubators, accelerators, etc. Kind of what does Liverpool look like?
Yeah, good question. I think that it's definitely changing a lot, probably even in the last 12 months or so, because there are a number of new initiatives that have been supported by the CA. So you've got Baltic Ventures, which launched 2 or 3 months ago, a tech accelerator that they're announcing their first cohort in September, I believe. You've got a new seed fund that will hopefully be announced, you know, at the end of this year, if not before, Live a Lab. So there's a lot going on, a lot of activity. I think there's also a lot of great organizations that are there to support entrepreneurs and founders. Be it Gather, Growth Platform, different, you know, Startup Grind, Liverpool, that's kind of focused on events and education. So I think in terms of that, preparation, there's a lot going on. Baltic Ventures have partnered with One Tech and they're doing accelerator programs. I think that there is probably still, if you talk to entrepreneurs, they will say there is a lack of access to capital. Especially compared to further down south, like places like London, obviously, which everyone talks about. I think it is improving. I think from obviously being new to the region, I think that you can see the visibility of that improving. New funds are coming on board, that kind of thing. But I think that there's definitely, I would say, more demand. There's more founders and great businesses than there is capital at the moment to meet that demand.
Yeah, and I think that's fair. I think that matches kind of what we've seen over the years. We've been, I think, our first investment in the Liverpool City Region was a company back in 2013, so 10 years ago, and that was a medtech business. And certainly we've seen since then a greater ecosystem develop, whether that be the funders, whether that be the accelerators, the incubators. That organisation was originally based at Scitech Daresbury, which has grown unrecognisably over the last 10 years from where it was. And so I think, we're definitely seeing that. I think there's still some maturity to come to the region, but I think for anybody who thinks that London is the only place to invest, I think hopefully those days have gone, because we're seeing that there's so much innovation coming out of the Northwest as a whole, but Merseyside as it's in particular is one of the key areas of growth, I guess, which is great to see.
Definitely.
So that's my ramble over with. So you've mentioned you've worked around the angel world for a number of years now, etc. How have you seen the angel world kind of evolve or change, good or bad, over the last few years? What's your kind of take on that world as a whole?
Yeah, so I think there's been a lot of movement to try and encourage new investors, but also a more diverse, angel investor profile, shall we say. So, I know in the North, I'm part of the Fund to North steering committee, and, a lot of activity and focus has been put on driving more female angel investment, but also more just as a whole to try and get away from the stereotypical, dare I say it, 50-year-old white man in a suit type thing. Sorry. And
there's nothing wrong with them, but we need more other people as well. Yeah.
But I think that it helps if actually they can teach people, new people coming in, actually feel welcome and actually can learn from them. Then that's kind of like the perfect scenario to have that. And I think also we see that with people tend to invest in things that they know and people that they feel are like them. So I think that if we make the actual angel investor pool more diverse, it will encourage a broader kind of range of investment in more diverse founders and that type of thing, and hopefully see a trickle down effect. There's also obviously a whole host of new technologies that have been introduced, which have made it a lot easier for people to get involved in angel investing. I mean, we saw through COVID, everything on Zoom. I mean, we're online today, but I think that, just access to deal flow, access to, tools that enable investors to collaborate and actually have those conversations as well. I think that's all great to see that kind of thing moving forward.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. And I think, again, I think initiatives like Fund to North, we're really proud to be one of the founding partners within Fund to North, and that was really exciting and has made good progress in the Northwest. Even through to the UK Business Angels Association Awards last week. Mary McKenna being named Angel of the Year. Not only female but also from Northern Ireland. So again, kind of breaking that myth about the Golden Triangle and London-centric things, I think is great and a real step forward for the industry, which is great to see.
Yeah, definitely. And I was actually at an event about 2 months ago now in Manchester, which was hosted by Jenny Tooth of the UKBAA. And that was for females working in angel investing or angel-led syndicates. And Mary was there. And what was so great was that everyone there was so willing to share their journeys, their learnings, what can we do as a whole to improve things, not just for female investors, but for everyone. What are the challenges networks face? How can we do more co-investment? And so actually, it is great as someone that's kind of not new to this arena, but new to the region, shall we say. It's really beneficial to have people like Mary who are so experienced and actually give them that platform and recognition to, congratulate them on the work that they've done. Yeah,
exactly. And that education piece is crucial. If you want to increase the number of angels, I think a lot of people probably like investing in early stage businesses, but they probably don't know they're an angel, or probably they don't know that they want to be an angel. And I think it's kind of broadening those horizons and helping those people access those deals and those opportunities, which is what you're working on, which is great. So yeah, definitely keen to do that. So as region, what would whether that be the Northwest as a whole, whether that be Merseyside, what do you think the region or the nation as a whole could be doing better to support startups and scale ups? Kind of what's your wish list?
I think that definitely kind of spreading out the capital so that there is capital that are more readily available. And I know there's a lot of conversations around that. how best do we support the talent to keep it in the UK?
Yep.
And or closer to home in the northern regions. Do we have the right skills for those companies to grow?
Yep.
In that region? Do we have, when you trickle it down, have we got the right technical skills? Can companies hire the right developers to enable them to scale quickly? And then to enable them to keep that business and the IP in the UK. God, I'm trying to think what else. Yeah, there's, a whole host of things. I think that there was an announcement yesterday, wasn't there? Which I've not read all the detail yet, but from the Chancellor about how they plan to kind of try and do more to help support startups in the UK.
Yeah, and I think, absolutely. And I think, we are seeing more and more collaboration, but there is still, funding is still a massive issue for these organisations, which is why the Enterprise Investment Scheme, Angel Networks are so powerful, I guess, is because, it is providing that funding, which is still vitally needed to grow these awesome companies. And
we've seen the extension to the SEIS limits and stuff like that, which I think, I'm pretty certain that we have the best, those kind of schemes are the best you can get, definitely in Europe.
Absolutely.
And I think that actually they are a huge part of like the work that UKBAA has done to kind of, get over that message of how important that is and the value that's, been given. So many companies have benefited from having that really early stage seed investment. So I think long may that continue, and just kind of getting the message out there about how that can benefit both investors and companies.
Yeah, and I think most people listening or watching this podcast will be au fait with EIS and SEIS, but I often still describe them as kind of Britain's best kept secrets. They are huge success stories on the economic front, but we don't seem to sing and shout about them. And I think that's something I know the UKBAA, the Enterprise Investment Scheme Association, the British Venture Capital Association, etc., are all trying to bring these stories together now to actually kind of increase the awareness of what these great schemes do. But like I said, hopefully most people listening or watching this will be fully aware of those and be advocates already, which is great. So kind of where do you see kind of the world of venture in the region kind of going, kind of what does the future look like, and what are you most excited about going forward?
Well, closer to obviously like Liverpool focus, I'm excited about the seed fund coming on board, because I think that will be just another pool of capital that companies can access in the region, and it kind of will sit alongside the Angel Network and Baltic Ventures and those. Another, it is kind of like the final piece, and so I think in terms of what's right in front of us, to me that's something that I'm really excited about. I think. And
can you tell our listeners what that looks like? Has figures been released yet about how much that's going to be, or is that still to be decided?
I'm not entirely sure. I think it's a headline figure of 20 million, but I could be wrong on that. Okay. I know that it hasn't even. I don't think the application process has even started yet. No. So I think that that will be announced in due course, and I'm sure there'll be a lot of interest. But I think that. Again, it's backed by the combined authority.
Yep, absolutely.
So I think that it's just, again, showing that they're really, supportive of, they've, flagged that this is kind of something that's of real importance, and they're putting their money where their mouth is, so to speak.
Which is awesome. And another backing for regional early stage businesses, which is awesome.
Yeah, and I think wider, like further afield, and just in general, I would say, just more. I'm not just saying this because I am a female, but invest in more diverse founders. Because I think that that's where, especially now during these difficult times, that's where we'll be seeing something different potentially. That real kind of gem that could come through. I think so, enabling businesses to do that. And there's the Investing in Women Code, which I know a lot of the venture firms have signed up to as well, which is brilliant.
Yep.
And just trying to get those deals done and support those founders and actually work with them on that journey. Yeah,
and I think the figures about where early stage capital goes in terms of board gender diversity is shocking. It's pitiful the amount has gone to only female teams. I mean, I guess the big thing is we want to see increased kind of multi-gender boards, and I think that's increased, but still a huge amount of cash going to male-only boards, which I guess is the kind of the big issue that we need to be addressing and driving forward, because it's crazy when you look at those numbers.
Yeah, definitely. And there's so much research around that actually, and how, the decision-making process on those, mixed gender boards, how that's, fairer and all that kind of stuff, and for organisations. So yeah, fingers crossed.
I'm not going to get into the female psyche. That's for a different podcast.
I wouldn't if I were you.
That's a rabbit hole not worth going down. So away from being extremely busy, new role, kind of leading an angel network, kind of, part of these podcasts, we like to get behind the people that we're speaking to as well. So what's your personal interests away from your busy day job?
So I enjoy playing hockey. I've been playing for years. I didn't play for quite a while after school, and then I got involved again probably 6 or 7 years ago. So I really enjoy that.
Awesome.
On the weekends, mixed hockey and ladies hockey. So that's really good, especially sometimes when you've had like a crazy week and you go outside and it's absolutely torrential in like the middle of January, but you just kind of get on with it. And I really enjoy that, because I enjoy the mix of, I play with all different ages, and so that's really good. I'm still a part of Startup Grind. So that's a global organization. So I'm the director of Startup Grind, of one of the chapters, and I really enjoy, so we go out to Silicon Valley each April and we go to their global conference, and there's aspirations to take, a cohort from the Northwest out there potentially next year, which would be amazing.
Awesome. That's
an amazing opportunity. And other than that, just I constantly order books on Amazon and then never seem to get through. I'm making a conscious effort now to do half an hour morning and evening, rather than just kind of getting really excited about a new book that comes along. I read a few chapters, work gets busy, and the books pile up.
I know that feeling. But it's summer holidays are coming up, so I know I can actually splurge on a few books for on holiday. So yeah, that'd be good. But,
yeah.
Good. And then the question we ask all of our guests on the Deepbridge Discovery Podcast is about the Deepbridge dinner party. So if you could invite 3 guests to join us, dead or alive, not allowed to be friends or family, because we don't upset anybody who isn't invited, but who would you invite and why?
This is a hard one. Definitely Louis Theroux, just because I love him and I just love his work, and I find him fascinating, and how he manages to kind of bring out the stories that he does.
Yep.
There's she's not really, she's probably an influencer, but isn't really, a standard influencer, who I've been listening to recently, called Tinks, who I find just really great in terms of like her balanced view on things, and for kind of women in their 30s especially. I find her really interesting. And
I've not come across Tinks, so that'll be that's interesting.
Yeah, probably not quite your genre.
I'm probably not,
but just really interesting, and really kind of, I think there's so much in terms of life as we see things now, especially younger generations on social media. And I think it's really interesting to listen to the conversation when it's on the other side of that, and actually people just showing the realness of it, and helping to, I guess, teach the younger generations that it's not all it's, appears to be, shall we say, because I certainly wouldn't want to be a teenager in this generation. And then, I don't know, probably someone like David Attenborough.
Cool.
Just fascinating.
I think David Attenborough is the person that's been most invited to the Deepbridge dinner party.
Oh, really?
So if he didn't turn up, I'd be very disappointed. He's got multiple invites out there now. So but that'd be good.
Yeah, and also I'm fascinated generally by like war correspondents and just like journalists.
Yep.
Thing, but yeah, they all seem to be having scandals at the moment, so we won't go there.
But I think that would be a very interesting dinner party. I think the 2 guys there, I know Louis Theroux and David Attenborough, would be absolutely fascinating. I think so. That would be very interesting. So Katie, thank you very much for your time. Really appreciate it. Great to catch up, and hopefully we'll catch up on a podcast again in the not too distant future to hear how things are progressing within the LCR.
Perfect. Thanks so much for having me, and look forward to seeing you soon.
Thanks, Katie. Thank you for joining us. If you have any topics you'd like discussing in future podcasts, please email us at discovery@deepbridgecapital.com. This podcast was brought to you by Deepbridge Capital LLP. Deepbridge is authorised and regulated by the Financial Conduct Authority. Please note that investments discussed are both illiquid and high risk and won't be suitable for all investors and should be considered as part of a diversified portfolio. The content of this podcast should not be construed as financial or taxation advice. We recommend investors seek appropriate professional financial advice. Any views expressed may no longer be current and may have already been acted upon.